Today it's time to start going through the fragrances that are on my wish list for next year. As you know, I have spent almost an entire year on a fragrance no-buy, which has been successful to varying degrees at varying times. And one thing that came out of doing this no-buy was sampling slowly, starting to appreciate the things that are in my wardrobe, I guess getting understanding for the things that I really love and the things that I maybe don't love so much. And of course, over that time with the sampling and the testing of other things, trying to make my way through all of my samples, I have generated a list of things that I either want to try or I want to buy. And it'll be interesting to go through this list because A, it's quite long, and B, I'm not even sure I remember half the things that are on it, so it'll be interesting to see if I still even care about some of the things that are on this list. On my to try list for 2023, so at the top of the list, I've got Maitre Parfumeur Gantier. I don't even know where I heard about this house because I don't recall putting this on this list, and the name is not ringing a bell. It looks like they are a French house, obviously, given the name, and there's been a few reviews of them, but I'm not even sure which fragrance in particular had caught my attention and warranted putting them on the list. But they do have discovery sets, so I might try and get one of those in the new year. If any of you have heard about them and have tried them and have a favorite, please share that below. I would really appreciate your input because, again, I don't know anything about this house. I've put them on the list at some point, obviously relatively earlier in the year, perhaps because they are first on the list. So there's no rhyme or reason to the ordering of things on this list. It's really just things that, I've just jotted down throughout the year as I've thought of them. Pretty much anything from Eris Parfums, apparently, I would like to try. I haven't tried anything from that house yet. I've heard good things. I think Pep talked about them as well. But yeah, I've heard a few people, refer to Eris, and I'm curious about them. I had put down here the Amouage attars that were released, I think, earlier in the year or around mid-year. I did actually manage to go into my local perfumery and test them out, and I can confirm they are very nice, hideously expensive, but very nice. And I do quite like the Iris one, and I think the vanilla one. I've put down here anything from St. Clair. Now, St. Clair Parfums is a house that has lurked for years on my periphery. I see them a lot on Instagram. I've just never come across them in real life, and I'm not sure how easy it is to get samples. I don't think that they're stocked locally. So yes, I'm very, very keen to try the House of St. Clair Parfums. I have also heard quite a lot about a house called Liis, Liis. And I think there's a fragrance called Beau that I think is rather popular amongst fragrance YouTubers, but I just really love the aesthetic of the bottle. So for that reason, I want to try them. So that'll be on the list for next year. So next on the list, I have put down Paragon, which is a new fragrance by Initio Parfums, I believe, that got released this year. Look, I do have a bit of a soft spot for Initio fragrances. There's just, I confess, I like them. I know they're overhyped and probably overpriced. I just happen to like, Absolute Aphrodisiac is one of my favorite vanilla ambers. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know why I feel like I need to justify my opinion of why I want to try things, but I do. I want to try Paragon because I do, I'm interested in it. Next up, I had on the list La Capitale by Xerjoff. This is another one that had been getting quite a bit of attention. And in fact, I discovered the other day that my perfume fairy godmother Chrissy had previously sent me a sample of it. So at least I think it was Chrissy who sent it to me. So I actually have a sample and I did try it, and it's not for me, but it is very nice. It's just not the type of thing that, it's a very nice perfume and it smells lovely, but it's just one of those things that I just can't see myself necessarily wearing it. It's probably a bit too fruity for me, to be honest, I think is the crux of that one. So yeah, La Capitale. I can cross that one off the list. Next up is Soleil Passion by Micallef. Now, I have not tried many things from Micallef. They're available in Australia, and I think you can even buy directly from Micallef themselves and they will ship to Australia. But getting samples has been difficult, and it is a bit pricey, I think, to order the discovery sets or samples from Micallef and ship them to Australia. So for that reason, I haven't bitten the bullet yet to get any samples. So the only things I've tried have been things that have come through my perfume subscription service. But I have tried the Ylang Gold, and that was very pretty, but again, not really something that I think or that I could picture myself wearing. I think I also have a sample of Glamour, which I don't think I've actually tried yet. But yeah, I've had a few little samples and things come through over the years, and I'm curious to try more from the house. And I feel Soleil Passion is the new one that they've released, and particularly now that we're coming into summer, I feel like it might be one that would be worthwhile for me to check out. So I'll probably try and get a sample of that early in the year if I can. Next up on the list is Baby Cat by YSL. This has not even, I don't think this has even reached Australian shores yet, and it seems to be sold out everywhere around the globe. So I don't know if we're going to be getting it. I don't know if it's a limited release or if it's something that's, you know, just going to be rolled out over time and then it's just having a moment, so it's, you know, hard to get. But the fact that it's really hard to get and everyone's talking about it is kind of a reason for me to want to put the brakes on just a little bit and not rush for it, because it is a fragrance profile, I think, that might be borderline for me. I don't mind. I mean, my favorite leathery leaning amber vanilla is Shalimar, right? So that's, you know, that's my number one for that kind of category. Le Lion, I just couldn't do. I appreciate how fantastic that fragrance was, but it was just too much for me. I couldn't wear it. And now this Baby Cat has come out, and from what I can tell, it's a ambery vanilla that leans in the leathery category. So I'm curious to try it, but I'm not going to rush or go to any great expense to try it. I think I'll just wait until it's available in the stores here and I can just go sniff it. I want to try a lot more from Arquiste because I just seem to love everything that I try from them. I'm not that I've tried very many things, but I have Fleur de Lis, which I think has been discontinued now, sadly. It doesn't seem to be that readily available anymore. And that's a really bright sort of aldehydic floral, which I just absolutely adore. And then I've also got Misfit, which I bought off my friend Emma. That one I really, really like. And I particularly like wearing that in the warmer weather because I just feel like it just warms up beautifully on the skin. But it is also very well suited to cooler weather. Obviously, I would really like to try Architects Club because I know Chris from the Perfume Nest really loves that one. She talks about that one a lot. Chris definitely has more of a vanilla, gourmand leaning taste in her fragrances than I do, but there are a lot of fragrances that she likes that I also really like. L'air du Desert Marocain is a good example. I know she really loves Architects Club, so I'm curious to try that one. But I also really want to try some of the ones that are in the blue bottles, which I think are the sort of summery marine type ones. I know I always say aquatic and marine type fragrances don't agree with me, and that continues to be the case. However, I'm still curious to try these things because you never know when you're going to come across one that breaks the mold for you and it becomes your gateway into a different category of fragrances that you've never really paid any attention to before. So for that reason, I am curious to still try them, particularly Sydney Rockpool. That was getting a lot of attention a few months ago. So I guess the people in the Northern Hemisphere, when they were in their summer, there was a lot of attention on Sydney Rockpool. And I do really love the bottle. The bottle is spectacular. It's just beautiful. Who doesn't love a blue bottle? There's some fragrances from a brand called Fleur, and I think is a brand that was started by a beauty influencer or something. Anyway, I'm curious to try it. I'm also curious to try the new one from Soki London, even though her tastes are a lot sweeter than mine. She really likes the sweet ones. But you know, I'm always curious to try these fragrances that people, you know, collaborate on. Particularly for someone like Soki, who worked in the industry for quite a while as well, and she's been on YouTube for a really long time. So you know, I am curious to try hers, even though I don't really anticipate that it's going to gel with me personally, but I do want to try it. I also had Les Abstraits on here, or Les Abstraits? Les Abstraits, I'm pretty sure it's Les Abstraits, which is Eugen from You Smells Good, his new brand. And he's just released his second one, actually, but I did get a sample of his first one. I did allow myself to buy that because I knew it was going to be good, and it was spectacular. So I haven't reviewed it yet. I think I might have said something about it on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't officially reviewed it yet, so I will get around to it. And I think I quite like the sound of the new one as well. And then the other one I want to try has just been released, I think last week, which is Letter. I think another beauty YouTuber has created a perfume brand, and her first one was just released. It's called Letter. I'm ashamed to admit I'd never heard of the influencer, and then I went and looked her up, and she's got, you know, well over 1 million subscribers or something, so she's not small. Anyway, the note profile is appealing to me. There's lots of iris. I think it's kind of like a woody, musky iris by the sounds of it. Maybe a bit of florals in there. So yeah, that one is really speaking to me. I don't know if they have samples though, so I have to wait and see. If they don't, or if they're not planning to do samples, then I may just have to wait for somebody to buy it and who might be willing to sell me a small sample of it. Anyway, but that is one that I am curious to try. I know there's often a lot of skepticism around, you know, YouTubers and influencers doing stuff like this, but I think it's fun. And I think if you've built a platform that allows you to do stuff like that, as long as you're not misleading people, either by overpricing your goods or, you know, I don't know how else you might do it, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I think I really admire people who are willing to take that plunge, because I'm sure it comes at some expense to them. So yeah, I'm all for it. Keep doing it, guys. I think I'm effectively at the end of my to try list for 2023, and I can now move on to my to buy list for 2023. I did go through this a few days ago and tidy it up. And I wish I kind of hadn't done that now, because I did delete some stuff and now I can't remember what I deleted. But I didn't think I was going to do this video. I only decided to do this video today. And that's only because I need a video to upload for next weekend when we're away. Hence why I'm doing it. And like my hair, it's Monday hair, right? I haven't been to the office. At least I have lipstick on. But I am wearing pants. Just to clarify, it's not that much of a relaxed Monday. Okay, in no particular order. I have a few from Les Indemodables that I would really like to get. I'm not going to buy all of these though, right? You know that. It's just, this is the wish list, and over time I may refine it down. But currently I have 3, possibly 4 from Les Indemodables that I would like. The first one is Musc de Sable. I really liked that. I can't quite describe it right now though, because I sent the sample to Pep, I think, some time ago. I wanted him to smell it. And yeah, so I can't even, I just remember that I really liked it. So that is definitely, maybe I should put it back onto my to try list as a, to try a second time round before I commit to buying a bottle. Rose de Jamal, which I have been wearing a little bit recently. Really, really enjoy that one. It's such an interesting rose fragrance, because when I first tried it, I didn't think it was that rosy. And then the second time I tried it, the rose was just popping out at me so much. But it's really interesting because as a fragrance itself, I think it's a sort of a woody, spicy, ambery rose. That's a very generic description. But what I really noticed about it the third time I wore it, which was only last week, was that it has an illusion of being quite dark and intense. Like the rose in it has the illusion of being a really dark rose. Think of a really dark red rose that's, almost black in color. But the overall fragrance itself is not that dark. It's quite light. It's stunning. But I also have to be careful that I don't just keep buying more and more interesting spicy rose fragrances, because I also really love the one from Eugen that he released this year, the La Douleur Esquisse. That also has, a lot of movement in it and a lot of light and shade. So that's also beautiful, but I'm also very conscious that I don't want to end up with 20 rose fragrances that I'll never get to wear all of them. So, and that is why I think earlier in the year, I'm getting off track now. We're just doing a little side detour, off topic for a second. Earlier in the year, I did a video where I was comparing some ambers that I had in my collection, and people really loved that video. That did quite well, and people were asking, could I do more of those? And I know that a few people in Fragcom do this or that type videos where they're comparing stuff, or they're comparing the differences or similarities between certain fragrances, and usually it's a really high-end fragrance and a cheaper version or cheaper alternative, and they're really useful videos and people really like those. But for me, having been through this no-buy year, I think my interest in doing these videos where I pull together all of the fragrances that might fit a certain category or a certain style, or are featured around a particular note, if I pull all those out of my collection and compare between them, it might be a way of me drilling down to working out which fragrances in my collections are the ones I'm drawn to the most. Because if I have 20 tuberose fragrances or 20 rose fragrances, if I only wear them in a very scattered manner throughout the year, it's really hard for me to determine exactly what the similarities and differences are and which ones I gravitate towards more than others. I'm not explaining myself very well, but over time I would like to whittle my wardrobe down quite a bit, but I'm at a point right now, even though I've done this no buy and I'm not, I'm talking through a wish list right now of things that I want to buy, but I don't really want to buy all of these. But I'm not at a point right now, even though I'm not necessarily in a hurry to go buy something, I'm also not in a hurry to reduce my collection either. When I think about decluttering things at the moment or getting rid of stuff out of my perfume wardrobe, I have a resistance to that, and I've noticed that over time, because I really thought that by the end of this year I would be wanting to get rid of a lot of stuff. But that hasn't happened at all. In fact, I'm kind of wanting to hold on to it even more. And partly that's due to me realizing that maybe I regret decluttering some things that I decluttered in a bit of a rush a couple of years ago. And I think the reason I felt comfortable doing that at the time was because I was just constantly buying new stuff and bringing new stuff into the rotation. And so I didn't really develop a strong affinity to any particular fragrance except a couple. So I guess what I'm saying there is I would like to do some more this or that style videos, but not from the perspective of giving necessarily you a cheaper alternative to something. It'll be a tool for me to work out what it is that I like about a particular fragrance out of a group of fragrances that are similar in my collection, and then see if I can start to cull off the excess of the ones that, you know, aren't really resonating with me as much. But I'm hoping that'll also be useful for you, because even though I may not be comparing an expensive fragrance with a cheaper fragrance, if you are on the fence, if you already have certain things and you're on the fence about buying something else, it hopefully would be a way for you to also understand whether or not it's worth adding something to your collection. And, you know, if you're sampling anyway, then probably you don't need to worry. But for those of you who have a penchant for blind buying things, it perhaps might be useful. Anyway, that was a very long, rambly sidestep from the topic. So let's get back to the list. Next on the list is Memoir Woman from Amouage. This has been on my wish list for a couple of years now, and the only reason I haven't bought a bottle yet is because somebody sold me a 10ml decant last year, I think, or maybe it was the year before, and that has done me quite nicely. It's nearly finished now. I mean, it is a powerhouse perfume, so it's hard to get through 10 mils of perfume, but I am nearly finished that now. So I suspect that sometime in 2023, I will be ready to purchase a bottle of that. I just absolutely adore that fragrance. It's like it makes me think of nature. It makes me think of, I don't know, kind of moody nature scenes, you know, kind of dark, a little bit noirish, but also sort of witchy, but, you know, not evil witch, but just like natural witch. So I really, really love Memoir. It's just a gorgeous fragrance, and I can wear that all year round. It is really strong. It's quite powerful, but I find I can wear it in summer as well as winter. So that is definitely on the list. I also have another one from Amouage on the list, and that is Material. When I first tried Material, I wasn't that taken with it, and I think partly it was because I tried it on paper, and this fragrance is really one that you kind of have to put on your skin. When you spray it on paper, the vanilla doesn't really come out as much, and it's more resinous, but the resin kind of just blends in with the smell of the paper. And I remember thinking, actually, Coz and I were both in the perfumery. Coz is, for those of you who are fairly new here, Coz is a friend of mine who also happens to have a bit of a passion for this stuff. He lives locally. We did a couple of videos together. He doesn't have a channel, but we did a couple of videos together, and he brought some stuff for me to smell. But we often catch up and smell things. But we both smelled Material in store when it was first released, and they just sprayed it on a strip, and both of us were going, we can't smell anything, like it just smells like paper. But the problem, I think, was we were in a perfumery, so there was lots of smells sort of wafting around anyway, but it's a fragrance that really requires, I think, the warmth of skin to bring it to life. And it wasn't until I think I did a masterclass with the perfumery a few months later, and they sent me a sample of it, and I had the sample that I could spray on my skin, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It definitely, I think, would be one of my favorite vanillas if I owned it. But I don't own it yet, and I may not. You know, it's still quite a pricey bottle. It's into the 400s if you want to buy it brand new. And I also don't want 100 mils of it. I think at the moment it only comes in a 100 ml format. So unless there's somebody who has half used their bottle and is willing to sell it, I might buy that. It's definitely not one that crops up in the selling groups very often. I think people do really love material. So it's on the list, but whether I end up buying it or not, I don't know. Another one that I've been talking about a lot lately, Precious Forest by Kiko Macheri. Still love that. I managed to score, I went through my 3 samples of it, and then I managed to score another sample. I ordered some soap from the Perfumerie, and when you make an order, you can request 4 samples with your order. And I requested another sample of Kiko Macheri's Precious Forest. It's just as well that the online store, the warehouse is different to the local perfumery, because I'm pretty sure they'd just be saying, no, that's enough. You can't have any more Precious Forest unless you buy the bottle, sure. But I think she knows that I'm going to be back to buy the bottle in the not too distant future. I have also been quite taken with musky scents lately, and L'Eau de Ver by Frédéric Malle is one that has really caught my attention in that category, and I have a sample of that I'm working through at the moment. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I actually want to buy it. If I find a secondhand bottle, I might buy it. I'm still not sure if it's going to have the lasting power on my skin to justify the price of it. It has a reputation for not being a long-lasting perfume, and I don't mind things that don't project for a long time, but I do like them to be on my skin for a while at least, so that I can enjoy it myself. So yeah, I'll have to wait and see. But that's sort of on my list because I do really love the fragrance, and that might be my sort of ultimate musky perfume. I also have Possibilities by La Perla on the list. This is one that I discovered. I went to a launch event a few months ago. This was the one that on paper, when I read the notes, I was thinking this is not going to be one that I'm particularly interested in. And then yet they sprayed it on my skin, and I thought it was amazing. That left a lasting impression for me, put it that way. So I thought the one about last night was going to be the one that I liked the most. That actually leaned a lot more masculine than I expected it to. But then in hindsight, when I look at the note profile and I look at the story, I kind of understand why it has this sort of masculine opening to it. It's a very nice perfume for sure, but definitely Possibilities was the winner, and it's obviously been the winner for quite a few others too, because it's been getting a lot of airtime. I have a couple of Decitas on the list as well, 3 in fact. Obviously I won't be buying 3 bottles of Decita perfumes because they are quite pricey. But Fleur de Lolita is really, really gorgeous. I have 2 samples of that. I've worn through 1 already, and it's just a really beautiful, light, airy floral fragrance, perfect for spring. It's like the ultimate spring fragrance. But I'll talk about that in more depth later when I do a proper review of it. Moonlight and Chiang Mai is another one that I have been really enjoying lately. And I did get some travel sizes of those when Decita was running a special late last year where it was free shipping if your order was over a certain value. So I did get a couple of travel sizes of the Moonlight and Chiang Mai, and it's quite sweet, not my normal profile that I gravitate towards. But there is just something about it. I think it resonates with me because it reminds me of holidays in Asia, and a particular holiday in Asia where I cycled from Ho Chi Minh up to Siem Reap. And along the way, because we were riding bikes, we got to meet all of these people along the way. But I just remember, stopping in these little villages that were like near the highways almost. And, people would have the little fires, and they'd be cooking pineapple on a little grill thing, and you could smell the pineapple, but you also had the smoke of the wood from the fire, and it was just, it's a fantastic smell. Anyway, that fragrance reminds me a lot of that, and so I really, really like it a lot. Even though, as I say, it's a lot sweeter than I would normally go for. And then the other one that I really want from Decant is the Melody de l'Amour. That is an absolute cracker, that fragrance. It is so beautiful and so opulent and, you know, kind of vintage leaning. It's totally up my alley. It's just it's just totally me, that fragrance. So that's another one that I would really like to get. I did get some travel sizes of that as well, and I've worn through all of them. So I don't have any more of the Melody de l'Amour left, unfortunately. The last three on the list are all as a result of me having a moment with musky type perfumes. This last three are kind of, I'm on the fence about. I'm not super serious about them, but I've just put them on the list so that I can keep them in my mind when I come to purchase a perfume in this category. So they're all sort of musky perfumes, and the first one is Milky Musk by Parfeumeur. I've got a bunch of Parfeumeur samples, and that one really resonated with me. It is very much a sandalwood fragrance. The thing I like about that, I mean, you know I love Sandalwood Temple, but Sandalwood Temple is a very sweet fragrance. It's a sweet sandalwood fragrance, and it has like an incensey thread through it, or a smoky thread through it that's really light. It's very diffusive, or it's been argued that it's not even really sandalwood, that it might be cedar or something. But either way, it's a very beautiful, soft, diffusive, sweet, woody fragrance with just a hint of smokiness. Completely different to Milky Musk, which is more lactonic, musky, and the wood in it is very dry and crisp, and it smells like freshly cut wood. And that is something that really appeals to me. It's very different. It also lasts really well. Whether I like it enough to warrant buying a full bottle of it, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to wait and try it some more. I'm still sampling it at the moment. I also have Apollonia by Xerjoff on the list. This is one that I'm really on the fence about, because as much as I love the fragrance itself, which is really soft and fluffy, it doesn't appear to last very well on me. And again, I don't mind my fragrances not projecting for a long time, but I kind of want them to last. I want to be able to smell them. I don't care if anyone else can smell them, but I want to be able to smell them. So not sure about that one. I do have a couple of samples, and my perfume godmother Chrissy, I think, has this in her collection as well. So I may, in the new year, get a sample from her and just wear it a bit more. But I do also really love the bottle, though. that is the other thing. I do love that sort of, mottled bottle that it has. Anyway, it's lovely. And then the last one on the list is Nubian Musk by Sana Jardin. Now, this is one that I sampled a couple of years ago. I went through a sample of that. And it's kind of just been sitting in the back of my mind this whole time. It was one of the first ones from the Discovery set that I tried. I ended up falling in love with Sandalwood Temple and buying Sandalwood Temple. But Nubian Musk leans a little bit more animalic, I think, than the other musks that I've talked about, which are more clean, fluffy, floral, woody. Nubian Musk, I think has a bit more of an animalic bent to it, and which it also appealed to me, because I like fragrances that kind of have that animal fur smell to them. I'm thinking things like Bengal Rouge, for instance, although that's more of an amber scent. I'm curious to know how I would go with Nubian Musk wearing it as a full wear on the body. Anyway, I have been talking forever. This was meant to be a really quick video, and it's turned out to be extremely long. There are two more on the list, and this is only if we get to go to France next year. I am planning a bit of a trip to Italy. We haven't locked that in yet, and if we go to Italy, Matt wants to go to France to visit a friend, and I was like, I'm happy to go to France. Can we go to Paris so I can go to the Guerlain boutique? And if we go to the Guerlain boutique, I would like to get extrays of Shalimar and Le Bleu. And because I cannot find the extrait of Le Bleu anywhere. I can't even find an eau de parfum anywhere in Australia. It's only the eau de toilette. And Shalimar, I think I could get an extrait somewhere in Australia, but I feel like if you're going to buy the extrait, you may as well make it a special thing and go into the store and have the special treatment because you're going to be dropping a pretty penny on it. So, you know, you may as well enjoy the experience. So those are two that are like, that'll only happen if we get to go to Europe, and it'll only happen if we get to go to Europe and my bank balance is in a healthy state. So, excuse me. So that's it. I'm going to call it an end there because I have some work emails I have to get back to, and it's been a very long video. So thank you if you got through that whole thing with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess.